this Learn English with the News lesson, we're going to read a science article together to help you improve your English vocabulary, grammar, reading, writing, listening, and of course, your speaking. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
Our headline, levels of microplastics in human brains may be rapidly rising, study suggests. First, let's talk about microplastics, since that's the topic of this article. We have the word plastic, like a plastic bag. Micro is the prefix that means very small. So here they're talking about small plastics, but they're talking about particles, which is a small piece of a plastic bag, an extremely small, tiny, that would be microplastics. Let's talk about some alternatives to the word small. There are not many. You can say I have a small problem, I have a little problem. If you want to make it sound even smaller, you can say I have a teeny problem with the project. So you don't want to alarm anyone. You can say there's a teeny problem. It sounds smaller than small. Now we have some cutesy, these are informal words that we often use in a cute way. So imagine you're talking about a tiny baby or a tiny piece of clothing for a baby or a puppy. These would be some cute words you would use in that context, but they're generally not used in a professional context. So you could say, oh, your puppy is teeny tiny, or itty bitty. What an itty bitty sweater for a baby. Or, oh, that is the cutest teeny weeny puppy I've seen. So these are considered cutesy expressions that you can use. So levels of microplastics, extremely small, tiny plastic particles. Levels of microplastics in human brains may be. Now this is an important word choice. We have may, which is a modal, and that's why you have the base verb. Remember, modal plus base verb, not the infinitive. Maybe is only used for a possibility. So this is not a fact, this is a possibility. Now, rising, of course, means increasing, and how are these microplastics increasing, rising? Rapidly, quickly, at a fast pace. You could say my English fluency. So this represents something, the subject of the sentence. My English fluency, your verb to be, is conjugated with my English fluency. It is rising, increasing, rapidly, quickly. Now notice I put rapidly after the verb. Both placements are acceptable. So you can say rapidly rising or rising rapidly. Now maybe you provide the reason why and use thanks to. So thanks with an S, to, and then something. So in this case, the something is these Learn English with the News lessons. My English fluency is rising rapidly. So do you agree with that these lessons are helping your level rise rapidly? If you do, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. And don't worry about taking these notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's continue with this lesson. New research uncovered an alarming accumulation. So alarming means it causes you to be concerned. It's like an alarm is going off. Alarming. And remember, if you change the word, you need to look to see if you need to change your article. So here we have and, because alarming is a vowel sound. It's not spelling, it's sound. And here we have concerning, which of course is a consonant sound. So we need a concerning. Accumulation. If something accumulates, it means it gradually, so slowly over a period of time, gathers or increases. So you can think if you start with a small snowball and then you roll it in snow, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the snow accumulates. Same with your vocabulary. You learn one phrasal verb today, another one tomorrow, another one the next day, and your vocabulary accumulates. The number of phrasal verbs in your vocabulary accumulates. So you can say my vocabulary has accumulated rapidly. Notice rapidly. Or the number of phrasal verbs in my vocabulary has accumulated rapidly. Now you could say has rapidly accumulated. You could put it there as well. Notice here, accumulate is a verb and is conjugated in the present perfect, but here it's the noun form. Accumulation is just referring to it as a something, the accumulation of plastic particles. Remember, this is our microplastics. And in this article, specifically in human brains, that's what they're discussing. Raising concerns about their potential role. So their potential role, it means the potential role of the microplastics. That's the microplastics potential role in neurodegenerative disease. Now, neurodegenerative, this refers to your brain because neuro comes from nervous system, which includes your brain. So diseases relating to your brain, for example, Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Now, this use of potential is very important because, again, just like in the headline, we have maybe rising because it's a possibility, not a fact. So the same use of potential role, they're saying it's not a fact, it's a possibility again.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
Microplastics are broken down from plastic waste and have polluted the entire planet. Let's review the phrasal verb broken down, and now you can say the number of phrasal verbs in my vocabulary is rapidly accumulating. So you can change this to the present continuous to show that it's in progress now. Microplastics are broken down. In this case, the phrasal verb broken down. Now notice here, it's to be broken down. So this is the adjective form because it's in the passive voice, to be broken down. This means decomposed or disintegrated. In the active form, you can say plastics take years to break down. So to decompose, to totally decompose. Microplastics are broken down from plastic waste and have polluted the entire planet from the summit of Mount Everest. So the summit is the highest point to the deepest ocean. So they're saying from top to bottom. Basically, they're trying to say the entire planet, well, which they said here, but they're trying to illustrate that in a dramatic way by having the highest point of Earth and then the lowest as well. Now notice the language that we use to show a range from something, the summit of Mount Everest, and then to something else. So you might say, I need to improve all areas of my English, and then you want to illustrate that, be more dramatic in your sentence. So you can say from something, for example, from phrasal verbs, and then to something else, to verb conjugations. You might say, I traveled all over Spain from this point to this point, and then you would have a start point and an end point. Let's continue. People consume the tiny particles. So notice, remember I said that tiny is an alternative to small, and it sounds like very small. So small, tiny. People consume. So consume means that you ingest it. Consume the tiny particles via food, water, and by breathing them in. So you can ingest something through your nose, or you can breathe it into your mouth as well. The new research published in the journal Nature Medicine. Now, this is capitalized because it's the name of the journal, and we capitalize the first letter of proper nouns. So this would be considered a proper noun. The name of the journal is Nature Medicine. And it's published in, so that's the preposition here, published in the journal Nature Medicine. The new research, now I can, because we have these two commas, I can go from the subject, the new research, right to the verb, analyze, because this is additional information that doesn't affect the grammar of the sentence. So this is in the past simple, but if it were in the present simple, you would conjugate it based on the subject, the new research. It analyzed samples of brain, liver, and kidney tissues from 28 people who died in 2016 and 24 who died in 2024 in New Mexico. Let's look at the grammar here because I see a lot of mistakes with a verb and a specific past reference. You can say she has died. This is in the present perfect. So you can say she died, which is the past simple. So past simple, it's a completed past action, of course, completed past action. Or you can say she has died. This is the present perfect. When you say that, it is a completed past action, but you're emphasizing the result in the present. So you have to think of it as so now. She's died, so now we have to sell her house, for example. She has died. Now, if you include a specific past date, such as 2016 or 2 years ago, you must use the past simple because you can't use the present perfect with a specific past date. You can only use the past simple. She died in 2016. So this is a specific past action. Just to make sure this is very clear, I added unspecific time to the present perfect and completed action at a specific time in the past. That's the important thing to remember, and the past simple is required. Microplastic concentration. So when you talk about the concentration, it means the number of in a specific container. So in this case, the container is either your brain, your liver, or your kidneys. That is the area, the container, and then the number of is the concentration. Now you can have a high concentration or a low concentration. So just saying the word concentration, you do not know if it's high or low. You have to give more information. So here they give more information. Microplastic concentration was much higher. And then where? What's the container? In the brain tissue. So by saying microplastic concentration, it means the number of microplastic particles was much higher in the brain tissue. It was also higher in brain and liver samples from 2024 compared with those from 2026. Now remember in English that one word can have different meanings. You're probably familiar with the word concentration when it comes to mental focus. Concentration is important when you're studying. So that's your focus on one specific thing. Concentration. That's the noun form. So it starts the sentence to make a general statement. Concentration is important when you're studying. Do you agree with that? Now you might also say, I need to concentrate. So maybe you tell your husband, your kids, your coworkers, or your friends, don't bother me. I need to concentrate. I need to put all of my focus on one thing because I need to rapidly improve my English fluency. So maybe that is the use of concentrate, the verb, and concentration, the noun that you are familiar with. In this case, the noun means the number of. Let's continue. The scientists extended the analysis with brain tissue samples from people who had died between 1997 and 2013 on the U.S. East Coast. Let's talk about extended. If you extend something, it means you increase the length in terms of a timeline or a deadline. You extend it, you increase the length, or you can increase the scope. Do you know what scope means? Scope means if the study or the original study was 20 people, and then the new study is 100 people. So they extended the scope to include more people, more things, more analysis. So the scope is how many different aspects. So the scientists extended the analysis. So using extend, maybe you have used this to say, can you extend the deadline? Maybe you've asked your professor, your teacher, or your boss, client, can you extend the deadline? So if it is due this week, you're asking for it to be extended maybe until next week, or even 1 day, 1 hour would still be extending the deadline, increasing the length. Now, this is the verb extend. You can also use the noun form extension, and you need the article and extension. So can you give me an extension? So you're asking for the person to extend the deadline. You're just using the noun form, which is very common, which is why I'm explaining it. Can you give me an extension? Now, if it's obvious you're talking about the deadline, you don't need to include the noun. But if it's not, then include the noun, the deadline, and include the preposition on. Can you give me an extension on the deadline? So it means the same thing. The scientists extended the analysis with brain tissue samples from people who had died between 1997 and 2013. So on the coast. And then which coast? The US coast. Which US coast? The US East Coast. So that's giving more information, but the preposition is on with coast. On the coast. Let's continue. The data showed an increasing trend in microplastic contamination of brains from 1997 to 2024. So an increasing trend, it means if this is 1997 and 2024, so it is just gradually going up, and that would be the trend. But it didn't say rapidly increasing. So if it was rapid, the line would be like this, but maybe it's just more of a gradual. We don't know because it didn't say. But an increasing trend in microplastic contamination of brains from 1997. So here again, we have that range from to, and then you can have two dates as well, from 1997 to 2024. Now, it's very common to talk about trends. Think of the trends with AI and automation right now. And increasing just shows the pattern of growth over time. So it's very common to describe it as increasing. Now, let's review the grammar here. There is an increasing trend. Now, in English, this is my subject. So you could say in education, in data management, in marketing. So whatever the topic is, there's an increasing trend in English, in the English language. Now I'm using the preposition towards, because that is where the English language is going. It's the direction towards. Now, because towards is a preposition, if you used a verb, it would be the gerund, but you can also use a noun. So I could say towards casual speech, and then I gave an example like phrasal verbs, or towards using casual speech like phrasal verbs. So this is a great phrase to have in your vocabulary. And remember, you can change the topic, and then of course you would change what the trend is. Let's continue. The most common plastic found was polyethylene, which is used in plastic bags and food and drink packaging. It made up 75% of the total plastic on average. So do you know this phrasal verb, to make up? Synonyms are represent, but you need to match the grammar. So this is in the past simple. It represented, or you could say accounted for. So if you use accounted, you need the additional preposition for. It accounted for. 75%. So you have your whole, and then 75% of that, which I can't show you, would be plastics. So 25% represents other things. So you can say phrasal verbs make up. So this is your phrasal verb, to make up, which is funny because my sentence is phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs make up, represent a large part of natives' daily speech. I have this apostrophe here because natives is plural, but then I want to show possession. I want to show that the daily speech belongs to the natives. So I put this apostrophe after when the noun is plural. Let's continue. These findings suggest that environmental micro and nanoplastics levels are rising and may make their way into human organs at increasing rates. Now, before you get too alarmed, remember we used alarming as an adjective, an alarming rate, a concerning rate. Before you get alarmed, concerned, just remember they used this modal verb may, which is very important because they're not saying this is a fact, it's a possibility. And just by seeing this word may, we don't know. It could be a 30% chance. It could be an 80% chance. It isn't clear. You would need more information. As an example, you might tell your friend or coworker or boss, don't be alarmed. So here, alarmed is an adjective form. It describes the state, which is why you're using the verb to be, and you're using this in the imperative. You're giving an instruction. Don't be alarmed. So to be alarmed, this would mean to be worried or anxious. Now with these two adjectives, you can use be or feel. Don't feel worried, feel anxious. But with alarmed, you would have to say don't be alarmed. Don't be alarmed. I only said that I may move abroad. So adding that word may, again, remember, is possibility, not fact. And you have modal plus base verb. May is a modal. I only said that I may move abroad. I'm still on the fence. Do you know what this means? I'm still on the fence. If you're on the fence, it means you're still deciding. You haven't decided. I'm on the fence. And even the word choice here suggests this is also used for probability. It's not used for fact. If the word choice was these findings prove or these findings demonstrate, those would be more factual word choices, but suggest means that is just presented as a possibility. Let's continue. While the study uncovered an association between plastic accumulation, so now you know what this means, and what is the grammar here? It's the noun form. The verb is to accumulate, so to gradually increase or gather, and it's the noun form, plastic accumulation, and certain health conditions. Okay, so there's an association. It means that, so a certain health condition, remember they're talking about neurodegenerative disease, so let's say Parkinson's is a certain health condition, and then someone's brain with Parkinson's also had microplastics. So that would be an association. You can think of association as a connection or a link. So it's saying that right now the study uncovered. Uncovered is another way of saying revealed or showed. But this use of while is important because even though I haven't read the rest, I know that while is used to introduce a contrast. So right now, yes, they are talking about this connection, this association, but I know there's going to be a contrast. So before we explain everything, let's review this contrast. Larger and more diverse studies are needed to confirm long-term trends and potential health risks. So they're basically saying that yes, there is an association, but more research is needed before we can say that there is proof or a link between these two. Let's review this together. So while this introduces a contrast, so I have this one point which may sound positive or negative, but even before I read any more, I know the next point is going to be a contrast. So if this point is negative, which it was, this association, which is another word for connection or link, that's negative, but I'm not alarmed because I know there's going to be a contrast. So something that sounds more positive. So more studies are needed to confirm, which is another way of to show proof or evidence of, because remember the language was just a possibility, suggest, may, those are words of possibility. So now we need to confirm, we need proof or evidence, which we do not have right now. So while the study, instead of while, you could say although or though. Those are synonyms. While the study uncovered, so this means revealed. It can also mean showed, but if it means showed, it showed for the first time. So something that was not shown before. That's how you would use uncover. So the study uncovered an association, connection, or link. And that's the end of the article. And that's why I said, don't be alarmed. Don't be alarmed because more research is needed. So now what I'll do is I'll read the article from start to finish, and this time you can focus on my pronunciation. Levels of microplastics in human brains may be rapidly rising, study suggests. New research uncovered an alarming accumulation of plastic particles in human brains, raising concerns about their potential role in neurodegenerative disease. Microplastics are broken down from plastic waste and have polluted the entire planet, from the summit of Mount Everest to the deepest oceans. People consume the tiny particles via food, water, and by breathing them in. The new research, published in the journal Nature Medicine, analyzed samples of brain, liver, and kidney tissues from 28 people who died in 2016 and 24 who died in 2024 in New Mexico. Microplastic concentration was much higher in the brain tissue. It was also higher in brain and liver samples from 2024 compared with those from 2016. The scientists extended the analysis with brain tissue samples from people who had died between 1997 and 2013 on the U.S. East Coast. The data showed an increasing trend in microplastic contamination of brains from 1997 to 2024. The most common plastic found was polyethylene, which is used in plastic bags and food and drink packaging. It made up 75% of the total plastic on average. These findings suggest that environmental micro and nanoplastics levels are rising and may make their way into human organs at increasing rates. While the study uncovered an association between plastic accumulation and certain health conditions, larger and more diverse studies are needed to confirm long-term trends and potential health risks.
Do you want me to make another Learn English with the News lesson? If you do, put let's go, put let's go in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Make sure you watch it now.